Welcome back to Beginner's Breadboards, my electronics learning journey. Today we're looking at measuring distance using an Arduino with an ultrasonic sensor module. So what we have built here is a way to just measure that distance and show it, and the way we're showing it is with 3 LEDs. We also have connected a 16 by 2 I2C LCD display. Now this display uses a slightly different method. Instead of connecting so many pins, it just has 2 pins that communicate with the Arduino. So the clock and then the data pins. It has 2 other pins that go to VCC and ground as well. When you connect these to analog 4 and 5 pins of the Arduino, the LCD library from Groove will automatically put everything on there so that it works. With the LEDs and this active buzzer, we're using this to just determine how far an object is away from the ultrasonic sensor. The active buzzer works by just sending 5 volts through its pin, and it will play a certain frequency there. And then the LEDs will just turn on depending on the code and how far an object is from the ultrasonic sensor module. Now, for the ultrasonic sensor, it has 4 pins as well. 2 of them are VCC and ground, and the other 2 are trigger and echo. So when the Arduino sends a very short pulse to the trigger in order to measure the distance, that's about 10 microseconds of a pulse, it will drive that high, and then this will send out some ultrasonic frequency, and then based off of how it receives that, the echo pin will send back a certain length of pulse, and with the Arduino and some math, you can figure out the distance based off of the length of that pulse. This is the code that we've written for this, starting with the library for that LCD display. And then you just define all of these connections for trigger, echo, and then our LEDs and our buzzer. And then this is kind of some of the setup for the LCD, defining some of the variables we're going to be displaying on it. We're going to initialize the LCD and print distance measure. And then we're also going to start the serial monitor, which is useful just to look at what data is being collected, but it's not necessarily needed here. And then this defines everything as an output or input. So the echo pin is going to be an input, and then the trigger pin is going to be an output from the Arduino. And then it starts with all of the LEDs and active buzzers going to low. So first what it does is it will write the trigger pin low for 2 microseconds, and that's just to get a more clean pulse. And then for 10 microseconds, it'll make that trigger pin high. So that sends that pulse for the sensor to start working and measuring distance. And then it will read what the echo pin brings back, so the duration of that pulse and how long it was high for. And then this is the calculation to figure out the distance from the duration of that pulse. So it's the speed of sound, and then you divide it by 2 for that one-way trip of it, times the duration of that pulse. And so that gives you the distance in centimeters, and then you do a centimeter to inches conversion here to get the distance in inches. And then we're just printing all of that on the serial monitor. And now this is depending on what that distance is, what LED is going to be on, and whether the buzzer is also going to be on. So if the distance is greater than 12 inches, the green LED will be on, everything else will be off. If it's between 12 and 6 inches, the yellow LED will be on, and then everything else will be off. And then if it's closer than 6 inches from that module, the red LED will be on, and this is also when the active buzzer will turn on, and then the green and yellow LEDs will be off. And then we're also printing all of that onto the LCD, so it's just printing what the distance in inches is. So this is everything built onto the breadboard. So here we have our 3 LEDs, the green, yellow, and red for indicating how far an object is. This is also the active buzzer right here that's connected to one of the pins on the Arduino. This is the ultrasonic sensor module, so it looks like that, and then this is what sends and receives that information for figuring out what the distance is. And then this is that LCD display And again, it only has 4 connections. 2 of them go to analog pins, and then 2 of them are for VCC and ground. So now demonstrating this, here we have a folder as our object, so placing it here. And then we can see the green LED is lit, and then it's saying our distance is nearly 20 inches. So that's over 12, so the green LED will light. And then as you move this closer, the distance changes. And now once we're under 12 inches, so here we're at like 11, you can move closer to 10, that yellow LED will light. So between 12 and 6, we'll have the yellow LED lighting. And then as this gets even closer and we get under 6, the red LED will light and that active buzzer turns on. So it goes all the way back, and then goes to yellow, and then to red. So now we're looking at the trigger and echo pins on the oscilloscope. So this yellow line here is what's being sent from the Arduino to the trigger pin. And then the blue line is what's being read by the Arduino from the echo pin. And so we've had to zoom in a lot. They're very short bursts. So right now we're at 200 microseconds. But if we continue to zoom in to that yellow wave there, this is what the Arduino is sending to the trigger pin. So it drives it high for about 20 microseconds there. And then the echo pin sends this back, this blue line here, which is what the Arduino uses to calculate the distance.